During the week, there were a handful of fights that were announced for UFC 213, which is going to be the International Fight Week card in Vegas. A lot of big names that are going to be on this card. So I guess the first one that I want to get into is the title fight between Valentina Shevchenko and the champion at that weight class, who is Amanda Nunes. Obviously, she's coming off of her win over Ronda Rousey. Has been rather inactive. I kind of expected her to get back in pretty quickly, especially considering how fast that fight with Ronda went. But Valentina won her fight, and it was pretty clear from that point that Valentina versus Nunes was going to be the next fight coming up. But I don't know what sort of things were holding it up. Maybe there were some injuries. Maybe there were some other issues that were going on. Maybe they had other cards booked. Whatever the case may be, that fight's finally booked right now. I believe that Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw is going to be on that card as well. So it's looking to be a really stacked card. As far as breaking down this fight, obviously these two have already fought before. In the first fight, Nunes came out really strong in the first couple rounds. And I feel like the first time I watched it, I felt like Nunes was really fading hard in the third. And obviously Shevchenko won that round. But the second time that I watched it, it almost felt like Nunes, yes, she was fading a little bit, but it was also like she knew that she had the 2-round lead and she didn't need to put out any more effort than really what she did. And she was able to survive. She got the win, obviously, 29-28, and moved on and worked her way into a title shot from there. But if we're going to look at this fight, obviously it's going to be going 5 rounds. Shevchenko has gone 5 rounds and she's looked good in the later rounds. You'd have to wonder if this fight goes extremely similar to the first time. Does Nunes just put in a little bit of extra effort in that third round, get up 3-0, and then try to coast for 10 minutes? Is she able to do that even if she wants to? What sort of adjustments are going to be made on Valentina Shevchenko's part to deal with Nunes? Obviously, we're pretty early on in this. I'm going to have to look into it a lot more before I make a really hard and steadfast prediction, but from what I've seen from Shevchenko in her most recent fights, I see her improving every time. And as good as Amanda Nunes is, her game is kind of based off of, yes, she's got a really good grappling background on paper, but it's not like she's ever really just been like throwing people in a fantastic manner and just passing through guards like butter and getting submissions. Like, she's very good. She's very good positionally, but she's not going to have an easy time taking down Shevchenko. And if this fight's a stand-up war, yes, Amanda is very long with her punches. Yes, she hits very hard, but Shevchenko is an excellent striker. And over the course of 5 rounds, if that's how this fight's going to go, you'd have to favor, in the long run, over 5 rounds, Valentina Shevchenko. But again, there's more to look at, but at a quick glance, I would say Shevchenko looks to be ready to take the belt and start her run as champion at women's 135, at least until 125 opens up and she either goes the 2-division champion route or if she vacates her title. But that's just an early prediction on that end. There's also a fight that maybe on paper sounds good, but as a fan, I'm really not all that interested at all in, which is Fabricio Verdum versus Alistair Overeem. If you watch the last fight at Strikeforce, you can understand why I'm not interested at all, because you would figure that this fight probably is going to look fairly similar to that. Yes, Verdum is a much better striker now than he was then, but I can't expect Fabricio Verdum to be coming out looking to strike with Overeem. Maybe the only difference you have between them is that was Overeem that he fought, whereas the Overeem now is a little bit more cautious. He understands that he can't take punches all that well, and he kind of fights on the outside. But even still, that might even make it worse for how this fight can go, because you're going to have both of these guys who are tentative to strike on the feet. Verdum's going to do whatever he can to drag this fight to the ground by just pulling guard or flopping to his back. And just based off how that last fight went, yes, Overeem isn't what he used to be, and yes, Verdum is a recent champion, but I feel like this is going to be pretty similar, and that's going to be a pretty ugly fight. That Overeem's going to win the fight by decision just because Verdum's going to be flopping to his back a bunch, but I don't expect this to be a great fight. Some other interesting fights that are popping up on this card: the fight that had been talked about for UFC 205 back in New York, Robbie Lawler versus Donald Cerrone. This time it sounds like it's going to happen. This will be Lawler's first fight since leaving ATT. I believe he is with I think it's called the Combat Club right now, which is Henry Hoof's gym. It's sort of like the broken up version of the Black Zillions. So he's staying in Florida. Not entirely sure why he decided to leave ATT. You'd have to wonder if the fact that he lost his belt to Tyron Woodley, who's also an ATT guy, if there were some politics there, if there were some sort of issues that kind of led up to that fight that kind of rubbed him the wrong way, or whether there were some issues that came afterwards where maybe he felt like he wasn't being treated with as much respect anymore because he lost to another ATT guy and they were giving too much credit to Tyron. I don't know exactly what happened, but that's beside the point. This is going to be his first fight with a new camp. Not entirely sure how it's going to go for him, but obviously it'll be very interesting to see for Cerrone. This marks a pretty long layoff for him to be fighting in July now after what seemed like he was fighting every other month, but it'll be good for him. And obviously he took some hard shots in the Matt Brown fight, did get the victory there, and then took even more hard shots against Jorge Masvidal and got knocked out in that fight. So this will give him some time to come back, but Lawler's no easy guy to fight, and really for Lawler, Cerrone's no easy guy to fight either. So it'll be interesting to see whether these guys who have both taken a lot of damage recently, whether they're going to be a little more tentative than they usually are, if this is going to be the war that we expect it to be and hope it'll be. And then the other big fight on that card that was announced is former lightweight champion Anthony Pettis will be fighting in the 155-pound division once again after getting defeated by Max Holloway for an interim title at 45. He'll be fighting against Jim Miller, who is coming, I believe his last fight was that loss to Dustin Poirier where he checked a lot of Poirier's kicks. Poirier had like a fracture in his shin from kicking him so much, but even still, it was a pretty gutsy performance. He usually puts on really exciting fights regardless, but he's been looking pretty good ever since he found out that he had Lyme disease and has been treating that. For Anthony Pettis, seems like a fight that he can win against a guy who's pretty gritty, but a guy who leaves his openings, isn't exactly the fastest puncher, isn't exactly the fastest kicker, and on the ground, he's definitely good on top. He can definitely submit some good guys, but I feel like Pettis can get some work going off of his back if he needs to. So this seems like a fight that Pettis should be able to win.